Nouveau as labor. Art Nouveau was a movement that swooped and developed through the decorative arts and architecture in the mid-19th and early 20th century. Art Nouveau is defined from Art Nouveau, the new art, which opened in Paris in 1895. Art Nouveau was an art movement aimed to modernize design and seek to exceed the current styles that had previously been popular. Art Nouveau was influenced by two movements that led to the creation of the styles in the 19th century. The first influence was the arts and craft movement in the 19th century that was led by an English designer, William Morris. This movement that led the way to the creation of Art Nouveau. The arts and craft movements like Art Nouveau were a reaction against the current design and composition of Victorian era, the decorative arts. The second influence was the vogue for the Japanese art, particularly in wood block prints that were created in the time period. This style, then inspired by many European artists in the 19th century, included the likes of artists of Auguste Killian, Emily Garrett, and James Wilster, that took up the Japanese style of woodblock prints that contain floral and bluish forms as push, curves, and all the key elements of what then would become Art Nouveau. The artists drew inspiration from both organic and geometric forms, which evolved to an elegant design that united the flowery and natural forms with more angular corners. Art Nouveau explored new visual arts and architectures that developed and was most popular in Europe and the United States in the late 19th century. Art Nouveau was first focused in the 19th World Fair in Paris, then established as Art Nouveau as the first decorative style. Art Nouveau then took the form and development that then became the base of the architecture in the series in the Europe and North America during the 19th and 20th early century.
The Art Nouveau movement was committed to abolish the traditional hierarchy of the arts, such as painting and sculpture. As a sculpture to craft-based decorative art, and ultimately it had far more influence in the manufacturing and craftsmanship in the labor and creation of many of the Art Nouveau pieces that the decorative arts and architecture that were developed by the workforce in Europe and North America during the late 19th centuries. Artists were drawn into the new movement that was more or less current with the arts and crafts style, was not at all connected with the social reform movements of the day. Art Nouveau then later influenced the 20th century abstraction, the architects and designers who contributed to the development of the style and involved in the movement were Victor Harnt, Hector Gourmand, Antoine Wittig, Charles Remin, Henry Vades, Walter Crane, Lois Tiffany, Gustav King, Adolf Much, and Arbican Birsty are artists that developed and contributed in this movement. Art Nouveau went later on in America and the United States, represented and depicted the work and labor force in the architecture style of Art Nouveau. Then union workers built in the cities during the time. In this movement in the United States, the workers then were represented in pieces of work in Art Nouveau movement in America
Art Nouveau was a self-consciously new and modern style, as the name suggests. Art Nouveau refers mainly to the architect, design, construction. Although the work of some visual artists, the goal of Art Nouveau was to raise the levels of the crafts, furniture, designs, textures, glasswork, jewelry, etc., to that of fine art. Architects and designers use such revised materials as stained glass, mosaic, cast, and through iron, wood, etc. Art Nouveau design rejected in the 19th century trade of drawing literature from class history design sources, movement styles, or historic. During this extraordinary time, urban lifestyle was embellishment. Old customs, habits, and artist style sat alongside. New bind and wide range of contrastly image and ideas. Many artists, designs, and architects were excited by the new technology and lifestyle, while others retreated into the past, embracing the spirit world, fantasy, and myth. Art Nouveau was in many ways to response to the Industrial Revolution. Some artists welcomed technology progress. Others deplored the shrewdness of mass-produced, machines-made goods and aimed to elevate the decorative arts to the levels of fine arts by applying the highest standard of craftsmanship and designs to everyday objects. Art Nouveau designers also believed that all the arts should work in harmony to create the total work of art. In the creation of buildings, furniture, textures, clothing, and jewelry, and conformably to the principle of Art Nouveau.
The Industrial Revolution, which took place from the 18th century to the 19th century, was a period during which primarily rural social in Europe and America became industrially and urban. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, which began in Britain in the late 1700s, manufacturing was often done in people's homes, usually had tools or base machines. Industrialization marked a shift into power, factories, and mass production. The iron and textile industries, along with the development of the steam engine, played a crucial role in the Industrial Revolution, which also saw improved systems of transportation, communication, and banking. While industrialization brought, although an increasing volume and variety of manufacturing goods and improving standards of lives for some, it also improved the style of Art Nouveau. It has also resulted in often glamorous employment and living conditions for the poor and working class that later became the workforce or labor. The first industrial revolution, which began in the 18th century, marched into the second industrial revolution around 1850, when technology and economic process gained momentum, which then developed of the steam engine, powered ships, rails, and later in the 19th century with the industrial combustion engine and electric power, gained an increased workforce. The period of time covered by the Industrial Revolution varieties within difference of history.
The origin of labor unions dates back to the 18th century and the Industrial Revolution in Europe. During these times, there was a huge surge of new workers into the workplace that needed representation. It was not well represented during the beginning Industrial Revolution. The publishment for creating a trade union was imprisonment regardless of this law. Some enjoy trade unions anyways, along with trading secrets and wheels. The reasons that the unemployment reduced was because that they wanted to have a revenge of the ones that were working because they felt that their jobs were taken by them. The emperors thought to raise their wages and improve their working conditions. Both the emperors and unemployers retreated the destroying machines. In the 18th, they lived of this class, trying to improve. It eventually became no longer illegal to form trade unions. A trade union, labor union, or labor union are organizations for workers who have come together to achieve common goals such as protecting the interests of its trade, achieving higher pays and benefits such as health care and requirements, increasing the numbers of developments and employers' assistance to complete the work safety standards and better working conditions. The trade union taught its leadership bragged with the envelopment of behavior of union members and recognized labor contracts with employers.